Welcome back, fight fans. This is Kobe's Corner. I would like to quickly thank my sponsors, Takedown Distribution and Torque Canada, and quickly shout out McBryde Mats, all-American quality mats for less. Today I am joined by the face of one of the top MMA orgs on the planet, the president, CEO, and majority owner of TKO MMA in Canada, welcoming Mr. Stéphane Patry to the podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Kobe?
I'm doing great and lots to talk about. I'm sure you're a busy man these days, and I want to get started with all the magic and hard work behind resurrecting this thing. There is no doubt that TKO left a benchmark not only in Canada, but around the world, leaving behind a legacy that included the birth of so many of the game's greats, St. Pierre, Loiseau, Hominick, Goulet, the list goes on. Once known as the UCC, later sold and renamed TKO Major League MMA, now returning for its 36th official event. Fantastic news for everyone, fans, fighters, we'll get to all of that, but how did you get TKO in a position to be relaunched and, like I said, resurrected in 2016?
Well, it's been a lot of work. I mean, it was always in the back of my mind. TKO was my baby. That's what I started back in 2000. And when I stopped in 2009, I kind of needed a break away from the game. And then when I made a comeback later on with Instinct, we had a good time, but it wasn't TKO. You know, TKO is a special brand. I mean, over the years we've built a tradition of building champions, and we've built a lot of them. And you know, obviously when you start a big project like that, the timing needs to be right. The people around you have to have the right people around you, and you need to have the right deal to make sure it's not a one-time venture, but it's a long-term venture. So when I sat down with the people at the UFC, I mean, I've been in a business relation with these guys for over 16 years now, over 15 years now. And when we started discussing the possibility of resurrecting TKO and bring it back on UFC Fight Pass, I mean, the discussions went very smoothly. The desire to bring back the brand was common, and you know, we came up with a deal, and here we are, 2016, getting ready to begin the new step in TKO's history, and I think it will be the most exciting part of TKO's history that's going to start in November.
Yeah, and you sort of answered my second question, and that's okay, and it was in regards to that Fight Pass deal, and really the best of both worlds. Now, we'll speak more specifically to the fighters. Obviously, it was a huge incentive to sign because of the exposure, but it's also an opportunity to be seen by fans not only in North America, but around the world. TKO fighters are no stranger to the UFC. Just open the history books. There is tangible evidence, and it's right there. Even the UFC versus Canada card back in the day was basically TKO versus UFC. But like I said, a massive opportunity to every single fighter under your banner to be able to make their own mark individually. How excited are you personally for your fighters to be that closely associated and under the UFC banner, but at the same time fighting for TKO MMA Canada?
Well, it's very exciting. I mean, it's exciting for us, obviously, as a company, because we're going to have the opportunity to become the number one show on Fight Pass. We want to take back our position of the number one show in the country, and we want to take back our position as one of the top 3 or 5 shows in the world. So with this deal, we have the opportunity to do this. It's very exciting for me as an individual because, you know, like I said before, this TKO is my baby, and MMA is my passion. Combat sports is my passion, and the only thing that was missing for this market, and I'm talking here about the Canadian market, was an opportunity, and it came in the form of the UFC Fight Pass deal. As far as the fighters, it's obviously they're the biggest winners in all of this because they will get the opportunity to fight on the biggest platform for MMA in the world, which is UFC Fight Pass, and they will be able also to, you know, to get how should I put that? They will be able to front, not only in front of all those UFC Fight Pass fans, but also in front of the UFC. Because I mean, the UFC is no stranger to what goes on their network, and they listen, they watch, and they know what's going on. So the fighters that are going to be, the most impressive on this stage will obviously get their names out there faster than guys who are fighting on smaller shows that are not on UFC Fight Pass.
Speaking of incentive to sign, you guys have been really busy inking deals. Each day I see more and more top talent being signed, up-and-comers, veterans, older stars, fighters looking to resurrect themselves. I see TKO signing the right mix of athletes, which will provide balance and consistency to your roster. And I would imagine your contacts have helped, but tell me a little bit about the scouting process, what it's been like starting from scratch, building from the ground up, your criteria for the selection process, how you're choosing these fighters, and how exciting has it been seeing these fighters find a home that is going to provide stability in their respective careers.
Well, obviously, I started by calling the people I trust the most in the game. I think the first person I called was Mark Hominick. I mean, Mark and I go a long, long way, obviously with Shawn before him. But Mark's been, ever since he retired, he's been a great trainer. He's always been a great friend. I know there's no bullshit with Mark. If he tells me this guy is going to be good, this guy's going to be good. And, I talked to him. It was very important for me at the beginning to bring back stars from the past that are still active. And it was very hard because most of them are either retired or in the UFC. So obviously Chris Orodecki was the first guy I was looking for. This kid started his career with 4 in TKO. He had 4 wins in TKO. He was a fan favorite at 18 years old. And when he left to the IFL, there wasn't one single show where, and I'm talking about all the way to the last TKO, there wasn't one single show where I didn't have at least 10 fans asking me, where's Orodecki? Fans love him here. And, it's resurrection for TKO, but it's also an opportunity for a resurrection for Chris. Chris is still very young, only 28 years old. He has a pretty good record, 21-6. And, I mean, if he can rack up a few wins, he'll get back in those discussions as one of the top prospects in the game, even though he's 28. I mean, we labeled him as the Sidney Crosby of MMA, and I still believe he is the Sidney Crosby of MMA. It just needs to be in the right scenario for him, the right atmosphere around, surrounded by the right team, and now he's coming back to where he's had so much success. And it's the same thing for his opponent, Derek Gauthier. He's another guy who's looking to resurrect, just like TKO and Orodecki. So this is going to be a barn burner. But if I go back to all the other guys we signed, so like I said, I went back to the people I trust the most. Signed some very exciting young kids. There's Jordan brothers from Eric Bertrand, a good friend of mine, great trainer in Quebec. Then I called Alex Caporici. We started talking immediately about the Laramie brothers. Then we signed Lindsay Garbett from Justin Brockman, who's been fighting for me since 2000. So I called everybody that I know will give me the top prospects. And we're just starting, actually. Now I think we did some very good signings on the East Coast, and now I'm working on the West Coast. And I'm pretty sure once we finish the announcements on TKO 36 in about 10 days, the card will be full. We'll start working on TKO 37, and there's going to be a lot of guys from out west on that card. And the goal is obviously to, when we do TKO 41 at the end of the season 1, when we put all our titles on the line, to have, the best talent from everywhere in the country, not just Quebec and Ontario, but we want the top guys in Alberta, top guys in BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the Maritimes. We want the best guys in the country. And, everybody knows now the place to fight is TKO. This is the exposure. This is the payday. This is the place to fight.
You mentioned Chris Orodecki, and that's a key player, and I like the opportunity that's ahead for him, and this really signifies what TKO is going to do for these athletes. Now, a new avenue or side of MMA is the TKO women's division. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember there being females prevalent in TKO or really in MMA. Back then it was a much smaller brand. Now it's a staple. They're awesome to watch. At times I like it better than the men's division. They all seem to really bring it. You spoke about Lindsay Garbutt, amazing fighter, and this is an opportunity for her, a great example, because this partnership allows her to get seen some more. She was hoping to get on The Ultimate Fighter. It didn't happen, but she's close to being in the UFC. So this is going to give fighters like Lindsay Garbutt a chance to get seen without being on TV, trying to get onto The Ultimate Fighter. It keeps the athletes at home and competing. They're sort of just getting on board the old-fashioned way. What are your thoughts on Lindsay Garbutt signing, and moreover, how popular the women's divisions are today?
Well, you're wrong on this one. TKO had female bouts before, and we had some pretty damn good ones. We had Valerie Letourneau, who lost to Sarah Kaufman. And then she lost to Alexis Davis. So we had two female bouts, Davis against Letourneau and Kaufman against Letourneau, three girls that ended up in the UFC. So yeah, for Garbutt and for all the other fighters, this is the fast track to the UFC. I mean, obviously we want to build our stars and keep them with us as long as we can, but we also understand and respect the fact that the fighter's dream is to fight in the UFC. And that's why this whole deal is a great opportunity for the fighters, but it's also a good opportunity for us because we know that as fighters start winning fights and grow with us, they're going to end up wanting to fight on the big show. So every single show, as an organization, we will need to renew ourselves. Because once, for example, a Garbutt leaves TKO, we need someone else to replace her, and we did that successfully in the past. When St. Pierre, Loiseau, Cote left, we had Hominick, Stout, and then when Hominick, Stout left, we had Bossé, Goulet. So I think it's really, we need to renew ourselves after every single show, and we need to make sure we keep our stars as long as we can to entertain our fans. But we want our fans to fall in love with the newcomers as much as they fall in love with the veterans.
And that's why I said, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm talking to the right man. I remember some of the content showed up in 2015 on Fight Pass, but I couldn't remember because women's MMA was much smaller back then, but it's going to be great to see those females fighting in TKO. Now, Ontario is a hub for MMA. We have top-notch fighters in the world here and dying to compete, and because of the Ontario Athletic Commission, it's really been dead in the water, speaking of professional MMA in Ontario. It's been a sad story to some degree. It's been really out of the fighters' hands. Their hands have been tied. Promoters can't always afford to fly people out west for a flight, so they sit dormant and are missing opportunities to fight during prime spots in their career. Quebec is outside Ontario, but the proximity is much more attractive. Is this something that you realized, and is TKO going to provide some hope for pro athletes in Ontario?
Of course. I mean, we don't want to be one of those Mickey Mouse shows that have been running in Quebec for the past 3-4 years. That pretty much it's a club show where often a guy from the same club would fight a guy from the same club. I mean, those promoters are not promoters. They don't want to fly fighters in. They don't want to pay fighters. They don't want to showcase fighters. All they want is the guy from their club to win, and it's never been the case with TKO, and it will never be the case. I mean, you'll never get an easy fight when you fight in TKO. If you're ready to fight in TKO, make sure that you're going to bite in that mouthpiece when the ring bells, because you have a tough opponent in front of you, and it's going to be that from the first prelim to the main event. And obviously, Ontario is a very important market for us. There's a lot of history in Ontario. Obviously, Shawn Tompkins and his whole team, Sean Pearson, Justin Brockman, Jeff Joslin, Payne Peters. There's a lot of history. A big part of Canadian MMA history is from Ontario. And, Jason St. Louis. I know I'm forgetting a lot of guys, but, Ontario is very, very important to us. And we showed that in our signings. We signed a lot of guys from Ontario, and we will continue to do so. Like I said, the most important thing for us is to have the top guys in the country. This is only the first show. This is only the peak of the iceberg. But, with our ranking system that we announced, I think things are going to get very exciting.
That is the best news I've heard all day. Ontario fighters got to be thrilled. Now you have your 36th official event, The Return, going down in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, November 4th 2016. How is the card shaping up? And as we move closer to that date, is everything on track? And what can fans expect for the return?
Well, they can expect one thing. This is going to be the most exciting TKO ever. I'm a promoter, so obviously I should say that, but I really mean it. I mean, I look at the fight card from top to bottom. I look at the quality of the athletes we have on. I look at the fact this is going to be like a night of not only resurrection, but it's going to be an emotional night. You're going to have a lot of the old players, old fighters there, old actors in the company that are going to be there. It's going to be exciting to see all these guys, to see, Hominick in the house, St. Pierre in the house, Payne Peters in the house, all those guys that, most of them are retired, but they're all going to be there to see the next crop of great talent from Canada. So it's going to be a very emotional night, but it's also going to be amazing in the ring because obviously one of my forte has always been my matchmaking, and I look at what I put together for November 4th, and I don't see one boring fight in there. And whoever's going to have to choose the fight of the night, the knockout of the night, or the submission of the night is going to have a very, very tough task.
Well, I was going to tell you, as a subscriber to Fight Pass, I'll assure you I'm watching, but after hearing all of that, I just might have to make the drive to Montreal, because I got a feeling it's going to be worth it.
Well, if you want to come to Montreal, you need to hurry up, because it's almost sold out.
Well, that's good news. Thank you for letting me know, and I'm going to put all the information on how to buy tickets and the location of the event in the description section below. Mr. Patry, I want to thank you for your time today, and I also want to wish you the best of luck as we move closer and closer to TKO 36, The Return.
Well, thanks a lot. It's always a pleasure to be on a call with you, and hopefully, I was just kidding about the tickets. Yes, it is almost sold out, but you'll be one of our media guests if you want to show up in Montreal on November 4th.
That's fantastic news. You just put a massive smile on my face. That is going to do it from all of us here at Kobe's Corner. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and be sure to check back to my channel for all of the best in MMA news and technical analysis from Montreal, Quebec to Windsor City. This is Kobe and Stéphane Patry. Check it out. Peace. Welcome back, fight fans. This is Kobe's Corner, and today I announce the return of TKO MMA in Canada. The greatest combat sports promotion this country has ever seen is back. The Phoenix has risen. Canadian pioneers and superstars like Patrick Cote, David Loiseau, Mark Hominick, and of course the greatest of all time, George Rush St. Pierre, not only laid the foundation, but paved the way for the stars of today and tomorrow. TKO 36, The Return, going down November 4th at the Circus Arts Hall in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. You will be able to catch all of the action on the world's #1 digital streaming service, UFC Fight Pass. History will be made. The only one question that remains is whether or not you will bear witness to greatness.